Welcome! I'm Michelle Anderson of Clarinet Mentors. I love to try and give you systems and tricks that you can use to make your clarinet much easier to play. And today I'm going to show you two different exercises that you can do without your clarinet. A lot of people may be going on holidays without their instrument, but they still want to have something to work on. Or there may be parts of your life where you're driving and stuck in traffic and you'd like to be doing something more productive than cursing the traffic jam in front of you. So these two techniques you can use regularly, and both of them will help your clarinet playing. First of all, I want to deal with something that helps your tongue and your lips and your mouth get used to the best position for good clarinet sound. This is a tricky thing for people to do. Now, when we're trying to achieve a warm, rich, classical clarinet sound, which you would use in orchestra, and most concert bands model that sound as well, we want our tongue, as we're blowing air into the clarinet, to sit high in our mouth, as if we're saying the word he. That kind of, if you say he and kind of notice where your tongue is, it tends to be fairly high in our mouth. Now, there are certain styles of clarinet music where we do want to move our tongue around, and in particular, styles that require bending pitch. So if you're doing a lot of jazz or klezmer music, then when we lower our tongue more into an ah position, we'll get a brighter, louder sound, and also the pitch will drop. And so that's really useful if you're doing special effects. Today, that's not our focus. Our focus is how do you get it into that he sort of ideal classical sound position. And no matter what style of music you play most, it's useful to be able to get all of those different types of sound. We call it timbre. And I think having a strong classical foundation will benefit any other style of music that you choose to play in. So, if we say the word he, it's pretty easy to get our tongue into the right position. Here's the challenge. Our lips, ideally on the clarinet, as we shape our embouchure being the word for shape of our mouth, we want the corners of our mouth to come in and to push in as much as possible. They wrap around the edge of the mouthpiece. If I were just to shape my lips in that shape without my clarinet and speak, I'd probably be saying oh or ooh. I think I like ooh even better. That would be the natural shape. Our tongue and our lips instinctively move together. When I get my lips in the right shape for clarinet, ooh, my tongue drops to ooh position. And if we had a little camera hidden inside our mouths, we would see that for he, our tongue is high. For ooh, it's lower, and it's in a different shape. Not a great shape for the best tone on clarinet. So we want to train our tongue to stay in he and our lips to go to hoo, and that's tricky. So there's two parts to this exercise. First of all, let's just look at our lips a minute, what we want them to do. A great way to help train your mouth muscles to go in the right shape is to take an index finger and put it in the middle of your bottom lip, just right where the reed would hit your mouth if you were playing clarinet. Then you're going to take two fingers from your other hand and sort of grab the corners of your mouth, especially your bottom lip, and wrap your bottom lip around the sides of this finger. So we want it to sort of squish our finger that way, like this. So I'm trying to put pressure on the side of my finger. Now when I take my helping hand away, what I want to try and do as an exercise is emulate that same effect. I want the edges of my lips to crush the sides of my finger like this. Crush them in there. And although the middle of my bottom lip would be a bit mushy, which we wouldn't want when the clarinet's in our mouth, it really, in almost a perfect way, aligns the other muscles around our mouth to be in a great clarinet position. So that finger helps us have a tactile anchor point for these muscles. If I took my finger away, once I get that ooh, I have a pretty good shape for clarinet playing. Now, this exercise took two hands, so please don't do this when you're driving down a highway, unless you're the passenger. But it's something you can do when you're sitting at a red light. Ooh, and then get your hands back on the wheel. So part one is we get our lip shape. Part two, though, is we want our tongue to say he. What will naturally happen when we get this, if you were to speak, you'd probably be saying who. So here's how I like to do it. I actually find it easier to get my tongue in position first. So I'll say he. This has my tongue in my mouth sort of going up and arched. He. And I'm going to try and freeze it there. Suspend it in air. He. And I'm going to slowly try and shape my lips into that ooh position without changing my tongue in any way. It's tricky. You're going to feel your tongue wanting to drop to ooh. So even once you're in that position, see if you can lift your tongue any higher. So it might look like this. When we say he, the corners of our mouth like to come out. When we say ooh, the corners of our mouth want to come in and our tongue wants to drop. So it's totally possible to have your tongue high and your corners in. Your tongue and lips just are not used to working independently, and this is what we're training. Now, you don't have to use your hands to push your lips in shape. I was just doing that to illustrate to you what I was doing. So without my hands, I would just go he, and I would just be training that. And you'll notice the sound I get isn't really ooh anymore because my tongue is high inside my mouth. Sounds like some strange meditative chant. Perhaps you can use that if you do yoga or something. Anyway, it's great practice. And I find if we can take one skill isolated in our body, and this skill is just, can I have my tongue in one position while my lips are in a different one, and not have them react to each other, but to have them act independently, then I'm training my body in a useful skill. Focusing on that without your clarinet, without other things, is really important. It does teach our brain and body how to do it. The second exercise that I want to show you today is related to our breathing and our blowing. And this is a fantastic thing to do without your instrument. Because again, although you breathe all the time and you exhale all the time, when we play clarinet, we really want to train our air that's blowing out of our body to be much faster and a much more powerful, forceful airstream than we normally use. And this again is a matter of training your body. There are some little exercises you can do that really help get the blowing muscles working more efficiently and more the way you want them to do for the clarinet. So I'm going to just give you a couple little exercises you could do while you're in the car. You might have seen some of these before, but I'm just going to put them together in one little exercise that you can do. So the most important muscle area to focus on when we're trying to blow properly into the clarinet are the muscles that you find around your belly button, right in this zone here. And for these exercises, it's actually handy to put a hand on your belly button. So I'd recommend you try this exercise when you're not driving a car initially, and maybe even standing up. So I'm turning sideways. I've got my hand on the belly button. The first part of the exercise, if you're at home, is just using your ab muscles. See if you can push those muscles out against your hand. Just push, push, push. Now, we can do that. It feels kind of strange. The second part of our exercise is, ideally, shape your mouth in a clarinet embouchure. And I want you to blow a very, very loud burst of air. Probably even through my mic, you're going to hear this. You want to get a really loud hissing sound. So I'm blowing short little bursts of air. It's pretty easy for us to blow a very fast, intense burst of air when it's just short. You know, imagine I had my hand here and a horrible, awful, deadly, poisonous spider landed here, and the only thing I had to swat it away was my breath. I could probably blow in that conditions fast enough to get that thing off my hand. Strange analogy, but it worked really well with one of my young students who was afraid of spiders. Boy, did she blow well. And ever since then, she's had great air support. So I'll share it with you. Anyway, that's part two of the exercise. It's just bursts of air. It's to train our muscles to send the air out of our body really fast and really compressed with a lot of speed behind the airstream. All right, part three of the exercise is to do those two things at the same time. And this is where it feels tricky. Most of us, when we think about blowing out, we actually take these ab muscles and we sort of suck them in. You know, even when you ask people to take a deep breath, they'll go, they'll suck them in. But we actually want them to expand. So when we breathe in, when we inhale, we want to think about pushing those muscles out so we really expand. But here's the second part of it. When we blow out, we want to push out as well. So for this exercise, we combine our ab movement, which looks like this, with the blowing at the same time. Now, I've had this exercise up on YouTube before, and likely you've seen it. And I think it's most effective when you have a hand right there on your belly button, because you can feel if your ab muscles are pushing out against your hand. But even if you're driving a car, you can work on this. And so we're going to start with just what I just did. I'm driving along. I have two focuses, two foci, whatever the plural of focus is. One is that my airstream is really loud, because when we can hear it, it's an indication that it's moving fast enough. So really we want it fast, but if we think about loud, we'll get that effect. And that it really has force right from the beginning. The second focus is that we're pushing out with our ab muscles as we blow. And I think the more training we can do on this in our body, the better we're going to play our clarinets or any wind instrument. Now, the second part of this exercise is to take those short bursts of air, and I would recommend doing a minute or two of those before you move to part two of the exercise. But part two is to gradually lengthen those bursts. And as we lengthen them, we don't want it to start wimping out. We want to try and maintain that force. So you might have to breathe in quite a bit because you're going to lose a lot of air quickly doing this exercise. So at first, I have short and measured bursts. Then I'm going to try and lengthen those. So they're maybe twice as long. Now, if I can only do 4 or 5 of those on one breath before they're gone. When you have your clarinet in your mouth, not nearly as much air can go through the reed, so your air is going to last a lot longer. But since we're doing these without clarinet, you just breathe as you need to. I'm going to make those longer and longer. Now, if you can only go to 5 or 6 seconds long with really loud hissing air, that's fantastic. Remember, our secondary focus is, am I pushing out with my ab muscles as I'm blowing? This doesn't come naturally to us. It takes training and focus. And I encourage you to try these two things. Whether you're on holidays, in traffic, wherever it is, these are two skills, E, oo, and that are going to help you become a better clarinet player. So I hope you've enjoyed this short video, and I have an invitation for you. If you're not already a member of my Clarinet Mentors community, I invite you to join. It's totally free. You just go to www.learnclarinetnow.com and sign up. What you'll get as a member is about every 2 or 3 weeks, I send out a little clarinet newsletter, and it will have an instructional video, just like today's, although many topics are covered. I also will recommend to you any interesting clarinet gadgets or devices or resources I've come across that I think might interest you. And from time to time, I'll have special opportunities for you. It might be an interview I'm doing with another fabulous clarinet player that I think you would enjoy hearing from, or an online course or anything like that. Totally free to join at any time. If you don't like it, you can just simply unjoin. Thank you so much for being here today, and I would love to hear from you. If you have any comments about these exercises, please fill them in the box below. I do listen to those comments and I respond to them regularly. Thanks for joining me.